G'day guys, my name's Nick and this is Nicktrition. In today's video, I'm going to give you my top 3 methods of fasting for fat loss and tell you exactly why I think they deserve a spot in my top 3. Alright guys, if you haven't seen my video on intermittent fasting and everything you need to know, you can check that out here. But if you have and you're now wondering, alright, with all those options, which one do I pick? Then hopefully this video will help you come to an answer. Right off the bat, I'm going to give you my top 3 forms of intermittent fasting, and if you want to hear more information about them, then feel free to stick around and watch the rest of the video. Number 1, we've got the 36-hour fast. Number 2, we've got the protein-sparing modified fast. And number 3, we've got simply skipping a meal. Now, all of these options can help you create a calorie deficit, and for fat loss, that is, after all, exactly what you need to do. They're not bulletproof though. If you overeat during your feeding period, you can easily undo the calorie deficit of any of these options. As with any fat loss protocol, the one that works for me might not be one that works for you. And that's completely normal. We are, after all, individuals. So I encourage you to give any of these, or any fat loss protocol in general, a go for at least 2 weeks. See if it works for you, see if you can adhere to it, and if you enjoy it enough to continue. And if you do, go nuts. If you don't, find something that does. The thing you need to keep in mind for any fat loss protocol is that you must be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. Alright, without any further ado, let's get on with it. The 36-hour fast is exactly what it sounds like. You don't eat anything for 36 hours. That is, you stop eating dinner one night, you don't eat anything for the whole next day until breakfast 2 days later. If you normally eat dinner pretty late and breakfast pretty early, the fast is likely to be shorter. And if you normally eat dinner pretty early and breakfast pretty late, then the fast could be longer. The key with this fast, and actually any type of fast, is to fit it into your lifestyle, not make your lifestyle fit the fast. Your circadian rhythms are going to dictate times of the day that you normally get hungry, because they're times of the day that you probably normally eat. So if you try and fit a 36-hour fast into a 34-hour window, you might be struggling towards the end. And likewise, if you try and fit a 36-hour fast in a 40-hour window, you might find that you overconsume on the day following the fast. One of the benefits of a 36-hour fast is that you create a pretty big deficit straight away. And the bigger you are, the bigger this deficit's going to be. Someone my size may burn up to 3,500 calories per day. And by not eating for a full day, I now have a 3,500 calorie deficit. I can then eat at my maintenance calories for the rest of the week and still overall on average be in a deficit of around 500 calories per day. This means that the days that I eat at maintenance calories, I actually can train with a higher intensity and recover faster. So for 6 out of 7 days of the week, my training and recovery is optimized and I have just one uncomfortable day rather than 7 days a week of dieting where I may not feel completely 100% each day. Another upside of the 36-hour fast, apart from just having to do it once a week, is that there are 2 sleep periods during that fast, which means that for a higher percentage of the fast, I'm actually just sleeping, which means I'm not feeling hungry. The downside of this is that I find it pretty hard to get to sleep when I'm hungry, which means that the second night I'm usually struggling to get my full 8 hours. The downside of a 36-hour fast is that it's pretty damn long. If you're anything like me and your job is sedentary and you find that you're not really too hungry until later in the day, then a 36-hour fast might be suitable for you. If you have an active job, it's probably not the best option due to having to go a full day with no energy intake at all. Next up, we have the protein-sparing modified fast, which sounds pretty fancy, but in reality, it can be applied to any fasting duration, and during the fast, you actually still consume protein and only protein. There are a few benefits to this. One is that you're still eating throughout the day, so if you struggle with hunger while fasting, this could be alleviated a little bit. Another is that you're less likely to lose muscle because you're still consuming protein and therefore amino acids. And as a bonus point, you can still initiate muscle protein synthesis if you consume enough of the right type of amino acids. If you want to know more about muscle protein synthesis, you can check out this video here. Now, you're not technically fasting, but the good news is that there is currently no evidence that there is any benefit to fasting over just calorie restriction. The downside of the protein-sparing modified fast for fat loss is that during the fasting period, you don't create as big of a deficit. And this means that during the non-fasting periods, you can't eat as much compared to other fasting methods where you eat nothing during the fasting period at all. If, however, you would like to hold on to as much of your hard-earned muscle as possible, then a protein-sparing modified fast might be the way to go. Time-restricted feeding is pretty much what it says on the tin. You restrict the amount of time that you feed. So that might mean your first meal is not until 12 p.m. and your last meal is at 8 p.m. The start and finish time of your feeding window don't really matter. However, the smaller it is, the less meals you can fit in there, and therefore the more likely you are to create a bigger calorie deficit. If you have a 12-hour feeding window, it's likely that you'll still be able to eat your normal amount of calories for the day during that window. If you have a 6 or 8-hour feeding window, then it's less likely you can eat as much food while still having some breaks in between. As with any type of fasting, if you eat too much in the feeding window, then you're likely to reduce or completely undo any calorie deficit made during the fasting window. The benefits of time-restricted feeding is that you can do it every day, and it's quite easy to create a calorie deficit as long as you don't make up for the food you didn't eat during the fasting window during your feeding window. If you keep your eating behaviors the same during your feeding window, you'll find that you can change very little and actually get quite good results. Now, I actually use all of these methods quite frequently. Obviously, I don't do a 36-hour fast too often. That would just be starvation. If I did it every day, I'd probably be dead by now. However, I probably use a 36-hour fast once or twice a month. And protein-sparing modified fast is probably the closest thing to my daily diet. I find that I'm not that hungry during the day, so I can get away with just topping up my protein every few hours and making sure that I'm hitting muscle protein synthesis, trying to make sure that I'm not losing muscle while I'm trying to lose some fat. On the days that I'm not doing a protein-sparing modified fast, I'm probably intentionally or unintentionally doing time-restricted feeding. And this is probably because I forgot to eat, or I was too busy, or I wasn't at home, or any of the many excuses why I didn't have my protein. And instead of having something else just because I was hungry, I just get rid of that meal and I start eating at the next appropriate time. This means that sometimes my feeding window might be 10 hours, it might be 4 hours, just depends on what's convenient for me on the day. And this is probably the biggest tip I can give for any type of fasting, is that you need to do whatever works for you. For some people, fasting's not going to work at all. You're too hungry, you're completely focused on thinking about food and you can't do anything else with your day. If that's you, crack off the fasting, just create a calorie deficit however you prefer. If you're the type of person who doesn't really dig breakfast food like me, then you can probably get away with not eating breakfast and just perform some time-restricted feeding. If you're the type of person that wants to create a big deficit and then just eat at maintenance the rest of the time, then 36-hour fast might be really good for you. And if you're the type of person who works really well with a schedule, time-restricted feeding might be perfect for you. You might be able to plan your whole day around your feeding window, and that might be exactly what you need. If you made it this far in the video, I want to say a massive thank you, and if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like me, please subscribe. Until next time, I've been Nick, this has been Nicktrition, and I'll see you in the next video.